They're at the scene we should be talking to hopefully in the next few minutes or so. On the left side of your screen, you're seeing that podium at the Monterey Park Civic Center, where we've also just gotten word that the press conference with updated information has been pushed back a few minutes to roughly around 11:45. So that is when we're hoping to get that new information into our newsroom.
Yeah, during the news conference that we had around the 8:30 hour, so yeah, that is 3 hours ago, we heard from the LA County Sheriff, we heard from the mayor of Monterey Park, we heard from the police chief of Monterey Park, we heard briefly from the assistant director in charge of the FBI. He did not speak much as to the investigation, but clearly a joint investigation, lots of mutual aid being poured into this, including the ATF. And Bruce, the ATF going to play a big role in this as well. How does their role differ from, say, the local agencies?
The ATF will be involved in tracing this gun. Was it purchased legally? Is it a ghost gun? How did this person get the gun? That's what the ATF is going to be involved in doing. And ultimately, the FBI will be involved in possibly prosecuting him under federal crimes.
Okay, as you're speaking, I'm just keeping my eye on the pending news conference in Monterey Park. That is on standby, nothing occurring there yet. We believe that may now be about 10 minutes away. I'm going to speak to our producers and ask if we have that ground shot from Torrance as well. There it is, the ground shot. Okay, yeah, it's freezing a bit. That's why we've been holding off on that. We do have a ground crew that is at that Torrance location, but that answers our question. You can see why there was a bit of freezing there with that camera shot.
But in the meantime, we are also, again, looking at the first images of our suspect from this morning. It's on the left side of your screen. This was just released a few minutes ago. People have been wondering who this person is and what the motive was. We simply do not know at this point in time. That hasn't been released by sheriff's deputies or investigators, but we do know this is the person they are trying to get a hold of. This is someone in a black beanie, a black leather jacket, and
additional units requested, multiple victims, gunshot wounds.
We are hearing some of that audio recording from when that shooting first occurred last night. That was from the police scanners overnight. You're taking a look at some video from the aftermath of this, with the victims being transported to the hospital.
Yeah, you can imagine always that chaos and that initial response in what information was going out, what those initial responding officers found when they arrived there in the parking lot, victims pouring out of the dance hall, then to go inside and find those 10 victims who were killed. They died inside that dance hall at the location in Monterey Park. Bruce Thomas, I know a lot of our viewers are not fans of the hate crime discussion, because what does it matter? And the fact here that you have an Asian male suspect potentially connected to a crime against victims who are predominantly Asian American.
Yeah, I mean, hate crime, it's a title. It is something, that we in law enforcement have come to use, just as we use the word terrorist, domestic terrorism. It is more for prosecutorial purposes, but it also opens up local law enforcement, local cities, to be able to get some additional training monies. Yeah. And a hate crime is just a wrong crime on somebody because of their ethnicity, their race, or their gender.
And there has to be some sort of, wording or social media post or something left at the scene of the crime that indicates that this was done out of hatred for a certain group of people, that in the eyes of the law designates this as a hate crime. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's something where the feds come into play now with the enhancements during a criminal trial, seeking additional years against the suspect for hate crimes. As it is, there's a lot of federal legal statutes against that.
But the sheriff has said this is not off the table. They have not ruled it out, but they have not found an exact motive for this shooting at this point in time. So people have been trying to figure out why that specific dance studio and why so close to a Lunar New Year celebration.
Absolutely. I want to point out here, we now have that ground shot up, and it is transmitted.
Oh, enough of that. Oh my God, I can't listen to them anymore. They're going to keep rattling off as quickly as possible because they don't have a Sky 7 shot right now. This isn't earlier, so it's just them talking about what could be and what they don't know, and you know what I mean. I'm good on all that shit. When I went live, when I was about to go live, they had a sky shot here, so they're just saying there's this guy barricaded. There was a mass shooting last night in Monterey Park. Asians. The guy they're looking for is Asian. He's also in a white van, and they think he's in there. They don't know for sure though. That's where we're at right now. That's like they don't. Do I need to keep saying that over and over every 30 seconds like they do, or what? It's just giving me a headache. Go listen to them. ABC7. It's on the fucking screen. If you're not stupid, you know where it's at, right? Pretty sure everybody here knows how to get there. Probably telling about how they had time is on their hand because there's no residential areas nearby, and they got it cleared out already, and it's a barricade situation, so they plan on sitting there for a while. What else is there to tell you? Let's talk about race, Chuck. Let's get people really riled up. Is it about race? But he's Asian, Chuck. Huh? He's Asian. Now what do you guys say? Like, what the fuck, man? Shut the fuck up. Really? Dude, the fucking chick just pecked at Mama. Did you see that? Pecked at her face. Whatever she thought about that. Peck her back. Pop! Let's see if they're still saying that.
Car. You've got the front windows inside, driver's side, and that's about it. So.
Oh my God! Give us the play-by-play. Tell me how a van works. Where are the windows at? Can they see through the side of the van without a window? Like, God dang, dude, this shit's made for like idiots. It really is. News is made for idiots. Bruh. People love it though. Everybody's stupid. Alright, is there some more of it?
Driver's side rear view mirror on this van, it's hard to tell if that is shattered or not. It does appear that the glass is broken.
Why does it fucking matter if the glass... Oh, well, look at that, Chuck. He seemed to have gotten in an accident and broke his mirror recently. Well, it could have happened last year. Maybe he doesn't have to have money to fix it. Maybe it's been like that for... Well, yeah, you never know, huh, Chuck? Huh, that's true. Like they look for anything. Like looks like he's a little low in his tire pressure there, Steve. Ah, he didn't even notice that. That might play into things later.
That, but maybe that would help explain that situation.
Smart.
That maybe some type of shots, non-lethal, were shot earlier to break that window, or from the impact. As
oh my God, the speculation is real. Why can't they just find out before they're like, well, look at that. Well, look at that. It's... You think it happened earlier, huh? Well, we don't know. Why does it matter if he was shot at by a fucking rubber round earlier? Anything is fucking news. Everything's news, dude. Oh, it looks like... Chuck, I think he's taking a piss right now. Look at how the van's moving. It's barely moving. That's how mine moves when I take a piss. Because I got to move to the back. I don't like doing it in the front. So this is going to be a press conference for the shooting that happened last night. 10 people, I guess, got killed. Mass shooting. And this is the guy that they think it is. This guy. In the van. There's only so many times I'm going to say that. I'm pretty sure it's like on the title and the description of the video, so... And it's on the fucking screen. Holy shit. You got it made. There are 40,000 people, 50,000 people watching this right now. And YouTube is taking off lately. It's crazy. Damn.
They're simply walking around. It doesn't seem like they feel as though there was as much of a threat as before.
Do you think that he may be incapacitated if he's in the van?
He might be. They may have heard something that may have led them to believe that the suspect may have taken their own life. I mean, that's a possibility, too. And that's one of the things that they've planned for also. The other thing, too, is they've got the suspect pinned in. He is not going anywhere. So in this case, for the suspect to, we believe, will have a weapon or may have an additional weapon, it's kind of hard for him to engage the officers with a van that has solid panels on basically 3/4 of it. So that's where the posture changes a little bit.
We now have the third Bearcat arriving on scene. This one specifically is with the LA County Sheriff's Department. But as you mentioned a moment ago, Bruce, a lot of these agencies, when it comes to SWAT, they train and work together.
Yeah, the Sheriff's Department.
Homie, shut up. There's fucking 25 people there in a van. Bro, what? Bring in the army. Why isn't there a tank there yet? Holy shit, dude. There should be an Apache. There should be 2 Apaches. I play Grand Theft Auto. How many stars do you have right now? Right when I say that, somebody says 6 stars. What are the chances?
What they will be doing next, they're huddled in behind that Bearcat, which is very close to the vehicle itself. It looks like Torrance PD has also backed away from that specific location. Again, we're about 5 minutes away or so from hearing an update on this barricade situation with the cargo van here in Torrance. But the press conference should be happening out of Monterey Park at the City Hall facility there in just a few minutes.
I don't know. The more I see here, it kind of seems surprising that they could hold a press conference when we are unresolved on the situation on the left of your screen.
Who the fuck are you?
We don't know for sure what is inside the van. I just question what type of information law enforcement from Monterey Park is going to be able to provide.
Why
Does
are
that
you
strike you as odd? And maybe this may.
You're supposed to just provide the news, dude.
Yeah, my guess is they are going to continue to push it back.
You're the
until
guy that sits there and just tells us some
shit. You can't,
you know what I mean?
Once you open the door, so to speak, and say, well, law enforcement officers from Torrance and the Sheriff's Department are conducting a felony traffic stop on a suspect vehicle, and the suspect is barricaded.
Okay, I'm not doing them. I'm not doing them anymore. I learned my lesson. Only if the police move am I turning them back on. Okay, because I'm going to end up quitting the fucking stream over them right now because I don't want to hear them. All right. I look at those dudes like news reporters are like Ken dolls. They're fucking stupid as shit, and they're paid to look pretty their entire lives. That's how I see the ones that are on every day, every night, that are on the camera all the time. In essence, they're paid to never change because that's the person they've hired. So that's why they're always the same. Like you'll go back to a news station that you watched when you were a kid. You'll be like, oh shit, it's that person. They'll be acting exactly the same as they did fucking 20 years ago. Fucking robots, dude. That's what I've noticed. So I go back and I watch Memphis news. I've moved a lot in life, and I'll go back and watch the news from those places, and they'll still be there. Sometimes they'll move to the city I moved to too. Like the news correspondents, they travel to the affiliates, and like for instance, there was that one dude that we always see in Florida. He used to be an LA newscaster. He's always in Florida. He'll be doing the long streams. He did the one about the murder case and shit. You know what I'm talking about.
Just like, yeah.
You put hashtag something in chat and he says something to you, answers a question. JT, hashtag JD or some shit. That dude used to be out here. And he acts exactly the same out there as he did out here. Because they wanted a California newscaster for their channel. They wanted that vibe. They wanted that who he was. They didn't want him to turn into a Floridian. Right? They liked his vibe. That's why they brought him. And he acts like one out there.
Shooting location in the San Gabriel
Non-stop
Valley.
talking and
Monterey
excitement
Park
and drama and
into
sensationalism.
And now we are in Torrance this morning. We've just gotten word that Air
All
7
news agencies don't
has
do that in all
reestablished its
cities.
shot right above, so we can get a better perspective of the
Specifically
Bearcat
depends on the
vehicles
city,
surrounding the cargo van and the SWAT members on the other side of that Bearcat. We aren't, again, seeing much movement coming from inside that white vehicle.
LA's the
And the
worst.
video there on the right side of your screen is the LA
The
County
right.
Sheriff's helicopter that is on scene in Torrance. So we were talking about
Torrance.
the distance between the two investigations. So instead of driving,
everything's so
we're able
punctuated.
to land that helicopter, at least get some boots on the ground as far as the Sheriff's Department response as all of this develops and
Chill the
unfolds.
fuck out,
Certainly,
you stupid
Bruce,
fucking newscaster.
I would agree with you. You have far more experience, but you know, the tone and the stance, the posture of these SWAT members lead you to believe that if the suspect is in this white van, that he could be incapacitated because you don't have any guns drawn anymore. The officers that were closer have moved back. The deputies and SWAT members that are behind that Bearcat, you know, have their backs to the vehicle. It just leads you to believe that the sense of urgency has diminished a bit, and you wonder, how do they know that? How do they know what's happening inside that van?
How do they know?
Yeah, you're 100% correct, and that's the posture that we're seeing from the SWAT officers
They
and
must
the general
have
law enforcement in the area. The problematic part
someone who
comes in
can
now.
do shit with
They
the.
do have to make entry into that van. They do
You know what I'm
have to
saying?
have paramedics,
There's some
which
cards.
are part of the SWAT team makeup to go in and possibly render aid to the suspect if he is still alive, or even if he is, you know, deceased. They still have to go do that. And the SWAT officers have that.
And we saw them
He
use
could have
that
just
drone,
let off
that Torrance PD
Maybe
used a
he
drone
just shot
to
one
see
to make him
what was
think he
inside
killed
the vehicle
himself.
without getting
You
too
know what I'm
close
saying?
with an
So that when they
officer,
open it, he's just gonna be
or
like,
a canine there.
"Banzai!"
So that was interesting to watch the body
I mean, I hope
language
not, but-
change right after using that drone.
Oh, that's what they're thinking. That could be it.
Yeah, they may have seen something on the drone footage, which leads them to believe the suspect is incapacitated and or deceased in some way, shape, or manner. And so that is why the posture changed, as you just said.
Why do
And
they
the
keep
timing is
repeating
interesting
themselves,
because
dude?
it lines up. It makes sense.
We
I
get
would
it.
say
He
was
could be dead.
probably about 90 minutes after the Sheriff's Department revealed that they were looking possibly for a white cargo van, that they located this one, which gives, you know, agencies enough time for that be on the lookout to go out, for agencies around Southern California to look out for a suspicious white cargo van.
Dude, that's
and around
crazy
that,
that they
time,
found
time for that information to
a white van,
disseminate
though,
to other
like that.
agencies.
And
that's when this van
that's
was
the craziest
located
part of it.
so many miles away.
Them white vans are
Yeah,
everywhere
they put
here.
out a bolo, be on the lookout. It goes out agency-wide, all of Southern California, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they were about to put it out on the freeway signs also for the public to help them apprehend the suspect.
You have to assume that they had more than just the white van to pinpoint this one, because we said earlier, it's somewhat of a generic vehicle. There are so many of them. Earlier this morning from Air 7 HD, we saw multiple white cargo vans within the vicinity of the actual shooting that were still on scene. So maybe there was a license plate that was captured somewhat on surveillance that helped pinpoint that, yeah, this is the one we're looking for.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. This just goes to the credit of investigators for the Sheriff's Department working with their federal partners and their local county partners of just how they got the information out so quickly and so accurately to possibly end this with this vehicle and the suspect.
Now, if the suspect is
The chat is
incapacitated
AIDS,
in the
dude.
van here, what is the next move that SWAT members will do?
It's
Well,
not
they
even
have
fun
to
to
go in.
be in.
There's no
Like,
way
you
to
can't talk to
can't
anybody
decode
in
that.
there.
That means
It's
that they
impossible.
will break one of the windows if it's not already broken, as what we talked
It's
about.
getting stupid
They
on
may
YouTube,
deploy a
dude.
canine into that window to rouse the suspect, so to speak, or to get a response, and then go from there. That canine will be supported by SWAT officers who are heavily armed, because the canine, you know, I know people don't want to hear this, but the canine is a
60,000
law enforcement tool, and there have
viewers.
been canines that have sacrificed their life in operations just like that for their handlers.
Yeah,
I
we've
can't
seen that
even read the
happen.
names hardly, dude.
Equally,
It's getting
heartbreaking,
stupid.
and a lot of
YouTube's
people
actually getting
typically get upset about that.
We
But
user
certainly
friendly.
hope that won't be the
Yeah.
case here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they will have to make
Like, you can't
entry
even
into that
see who's
vehicle.
here. Like, look in
You
chat
know,
and look
maybe
over there and
they
see
might
who's
use the
like.
third Bearcat to maybe rip a door off that vehicle,
Oh, let me look at
attach
this.
some sort of chain and hook to give them an
Participants.
operational viewing and area
Oh my
where they can
goodness, does it
possibly enter
scroll?
safely.
It
And
doesn't
Bruce Thomas,
scroll.
at this point,
Oh my
it's almost
gosh.
like nothing would surprise us. We've seen situations with prior
Whoa,
pursuits with a suspect
keep up with
of
it.
tear gas and non-lethal or even lethal shots going into a
Yeah, I
vehicle.
can't keep up with
and we
it.
thought that the
Can
suspect
yours?
must have been killed, and sure enough, the door opens and the guy walks out. That was a case roughly a month or two ago.
I don't know, man. It's broken. Everything's breaking.
So even if you think one thing, until it's done and in custody and
The
that
chat
door
actually
opens,
just broke.
you just don't know for sure.
Dude, my
Can
fucking
you speak to that
computer's
possibility,
wigging
you know,
out over this
until
shit.
they open that door?
All right, we might have lost Bruce here, but again, we are waiting for new information in about 5 minutes or so with that
I can't
press
get chat to
conference
start working,
possibly
so
happening
it
at
won't.
noon. Might give us a clearer picture of what's happening
It's
in
doing all kinds of
Torrance
shit.
right now
See
with
it?
this scene.
I clicked, and it's still there. What is happening? What is this? Why is it doing
also
that?
hoping to find out,
You know,
who the suspect.
Oh man, I gave you treats twice. You should be extremely happy, Simon. Oh, but instead, you're clawing that. Alright. Everything's locking up. What is happening? Why is it doing that? No, it's like got this gap right there out of nowhere and it's wigging out. Oh my gosh. Nothing's different. Except for me being on YouTube rather than Twitch. I don't know. I gotta close this fucking tab and reopen it because apparently my tab is broken. I don't know what the fuck that is, but that's what happened.
And for a few minutes, I heard Bruce Thomas's assessment, and I would agree with that. That the posture taken by the Special Enforcement Bureau
That's all
it
could have been. It's fucking stupid. I didn't have anything different except for the tab was fucking. My tab was broken. That one tab. Every other tab was running smoothly.
The suspect is inside, incapacitated. So as we
Chat broke my
watch
tab.
this whole thing play out, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, both here at this tactical scene, but also on the investigative.
YouTube needs to take some of its fucking money and put it towards expanding the live streaming platform. If they're going to be getting this much off of it,
and of course doing
it's pissing me off. Over the years, they've only taken away stuff, dude.
Investigative steps that are so important in today's investigation that just a handful of years ago that would not be undertaken. The technical side, the
YouTube live stream pisses me off on so many levels.
Potentially, there's a lot going on, and then of course at the scene, all of the closed-circuit TV cameras that might be there, and other technical
It's
aids
partially
that
due to
they may have in place
ABC7
in
not
the
turning
city
slow
to be
mode
able
on,
to help
though.
identify
I
somebody
mean,
who was at the scene and then be able to do an
62,000
appropriate
viewers
level
is
of
probably
follow-up.
a time you want to
Absolutely. I mean, that's
turn
a
at
great
least
recap on
maybe
what we've
like
been discussing throughout
one
the
message
morning, the
every
social
second.
media aspect, the surveillance cameras, and we know
Something.
that the Monterey
One.
Park area, and
Anything.
even where the shooting
It's better
occurred, the
than nothing.
building where the shooting
But
occurred,
this is
we saw
too
multiple
much,
cameras pointing
dude.
down on the parking lot, on the entrance of that facility.
It's not
Former
enjoyable.
Sheriff Jim
So you
McDonald, this
can't
is, of
read
course, a
chat.
department
What the
that
fuck,
you
man?
led just over 4 years ago for a 4-year term. And knowing that the Sheriff's Homicide Bureau is leading the investigation, what kind of confidence do you have that they're going to wrap this up and they're going to get it right?
It takes chat
They're
out
as
of
good
the.
as you can get. The
It's no
Homicide
longer there for
Bureau
me.
are among the best anywhere. Likewise, with the Special Enforcement Bureau, are handling the tactical scene, and Homicide Bureau is going to take advantage of all of the resources
Fucking
they have from
IP2's there
a technical
too.
standpoint.
I could see them all in there
The
too.
experts from the side of the crime scene investigation and follow-up,
So
cyber
glad to
experts.
be away from them.
The beauty of being a large department and the largest sheriff's department in the nation is that you have resources available to you to do anything that can possibly be done to further the progress of the case.
Now, we've had a lot of agencies involved in this case overnight and through the morning hours. We've had the FBI also involved in this.
Hey,
and we
thanks, man.
see progress with this investigation and a possible suspect being apprehended within hours of this happening. Can you talk about the resources that are shared between these agencies and how helpful it can be in an investigation like this?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely critical. When you look at the county of Los Angeles, it's 88 cities plus all of the massive unincorporated areas. 42 of those cities are contracting the LA County Sheriff's Department for their policing services. But there's an awful lot of different jurisdictions involved in anything like this that happens, particularly when you have a particularly heinous crime like this committed with the suspect on the loose after the incident. Everybody focuses on this. There's a potential grave threat to the community and surrounding areas. So everybody, it's all hands on deck, and everybody's focused on apprehending this suspect, identifying, isolating, and apprehending the suspect. And as we see here, the federal resources, state resources, as well as all of our partner agencies in the region brought whatever they could to bear on this. And here we have, like you said, within a dozen hours, the suspect has been located, and that is playing itself out now there for a conclusion.
Sure. And for our viewers who are tuning in here on our live streaming coverage, the perspective of this being the 5th mass shooting in the U.S. this year, but the largest since Uvalde, Texas.
I didn't even know there was a mass
year.
shooting
So
until
on the mass shooting scale,
I saw there was
this is a
standoff.
significant one. Bruce Thomas was
I
speaking
turned it on and there was a
minutes ago
standoff, and I was like,
the
"Oh shit!"
collaboration on the
And
training
then I saw
side with these SWAT
title
members. We have both
that it
Torrance
was Monterey
police,
Park
and then
mass
we
shooting
saw moments
suspect,
ago,
and I was like, "What?"
Bearcat and personnel
That's pretty
from
close
the
to me,
sheriff's
dude.
SWAT arrived.
Like Torrance
How
is,
well does that collaboration
I was just in
work?
Torrance
How
last
familiar
week.
are you with it?
Oh, yeah. No, very,
like 30
very
minutes
familiar.
away
And,
at that.
the agencies do train together as much as possible.
Somewhere around there.
The 3 largest agencies in the county all have a SWAT team, LAPD, LA Sheriffs, and Long Beach, as well as many of the agencies that are more medium-sized. They also have part-time SWAT elements that they're able to respond to certain incidents in their own cities. And so we have people who put a lot of time, energy, and effort into being as good as they can be in this specialty, and it certainly does save lives. Their primary focus is to get to a scene, to try as best they can to isolate it, to ensure that there are no community members around the scene that are still in harm's way. They're evacuated. And then once they have it isolated and the situation under control from that standpoint, and then every attempt is made to de-escalate the situation, talk the suspect out of his position of advantage if he's barricaded, and be able to take them peacefully into custody. But they prepare for the worst and hope for the best and work toward the best resolution in all of these situations.
And speaking about making sure that all the community members remain safe around this area, we were just taking a look at some video here of that drone that they were using to monitor the
Dude,
vehicle.
what happened at the press
Can you
conference?
talk about
This was
the
happened 15 minutes ago.
technology like this drone that is so helpful when it comes to a barricade situation?
Maybe they heard the gunshot.
Absolutely. I recall back when I was sheriff in 2015, we introduced drones to be able to be useful to us in situations like this, tactical situations, in bomb squad situations, and in trying to locate lost hikers and missing persons in the Angeles National Forest area. And there was quite a bit of pushback at that time. And I think we've seen a transition.
Have you seen those dog robots with guns on them? Rifles?
In being able to safely get eyes on a tactical scene, or in the case of an explosive device, the device itself, without putting our personnel in harm's way unnecessarily. In this case, a drone, I believe this is probably being operated by Torrance. Torrance has one of the premier drone operations that I've seen. They use drones on a regular basis to assist in responding to patrol calls as well, and they're very well versed in it and have been at it for some time. And so I think we're going to see more and more drone usage throughout the United States as we see the value of being able to effectively to get a view of what's going on, to be able, in this case, possibly to be able to look in the windshield or the side windows, and the rest of it is all you can see, not available. It's all panel. It's a panel truck, so there's no windows in the back. But to be able to see if the person is inside, if they are, and what condition they're in before they approach personally. So I'm sure that they have already made their assessment based on the posture here, that they're now going to move methodically into a position where they can exhaust all questions as to the condition of the suspect, as well as other additional suspects potentially in this location. Once they do that, then they'll make the approach. If they were to see that there were additional suspects in the van, that certainly would change the whole posture, and it would become more of a potentially a rescue effort at that point.
Sure.
Interesting. You see the bomb squad just pulled up here, and they're going to make sure then that the vehicle is not booby-trapped in any way, and to again, look at all potential outcomes to this, and look at all possible threats, and be able to run those to ground before they do the actual approach.
I was going to ask you about the response of the bomb squad unit that arrived on scene just a moment ago. Certainly you see that, and you jump to the conclusion that there are explosives, but they even do more than just that, and they do work in collaboration with the SWAT units. Is that correct?
This guy kind of looks like him.
We joined them all.
An old man version of him. Is that him? Is that Data?
Or Special Enforcement Bureau.
Crazy.
And they work together very closely, and particularly in situations where they have to breach a door in a location that's potentially barricaded, or to be able to effect a rescue in somewhere where they have to use explosives to gain entry. Certainly the expertise of the bomb squad is employed at that time.
Is that him?
It was also very interesting to watch the drone hover close to the van, but very close to the ground as well, checking to see all angles of this van to see if there was any possible planted explosives as well. So that was fascinating to watch the drone be a very helpful tool to these team members out here.
Heavy though. He's probably lives in LA.
Yeah, it's very, very maneuverable. The camera set up on these devices is very clear, high definition cameras, and so they have an ability to be able to do a very thorough and quick assessment using these devices.
Yeah, and you spoke so well to the debate that occurred years ago when you were serving as the Los Angeles County Sheriff about drones. I mean, there was even outrage from some folks in the community about this, with concerns and complaints that, drones were going to be invading our privacy and looking in our windows, and that is not the case.
Rayo,
not at all. The only windows they'll look in are in a situation like this, whether it's a vehicle or a residence or a business, to be able to see what the needs are for the tactical situation at hand. And certainly, if there is someone injured inside, they get that information, and they're able then to make it a rapid entry and be able to pull that person out, get them to the medical help they may need.
He just made a movie called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Lifesaver. in the situations where it's used appropriately.
An
Oh,
American
absolutely. We got good
absurdist
perspective there
science
just a moment ago
fiction
from Air 7
comedy
HD on the
drama
broad
film.
perimeter that's
What
unfolding
is
here
that?
in this area of Torrance.
Sounds crazy.
Sepulveda and Hawthorne is the general intersection where this parking lot is located. Looking at everything that you're seeing in this coverage, do you think we are minutes away, moments away from them moving in? What are they waiting for?
Yeah, I don't have any specific knowledge or information more than you do at this point.
He's going to be in a
Just
series in
watching the posture,
2023
they're
called
going to take their time.
American-Born
It does not appear that
Chinese.
there's any sense of urgency. They're going to do it thoroughly and make sure that every eventuality or potential is looked at and exhausted before they make that approach to the vehicle. And so as you see additional resources being brought into place, it looks like, based on this latest one, that they're going to be here for some period of time.
And may I ask you, correct me if I'm wrong, the Sheriff's Homicide Bureau, that is stationed within the city of Monterey Park. Am I correct? And if so, can you speak to that community? What's happened to them with this incident?
Certainly, yeah. The Homicide Bureau is based in the city of Monterey Park, and certainly has that attachment with the local residents. So when they rolled out on this last night, I'm sure this certainly had some special meaning for them being so close to their headquarters, but also the relationships that the Sheriff's Department and the Monterey Park Police Department enjoy with the community members in Monterey Park and the surrounding areas is a very strong one. And so earlier we saw the Chester Chong, the president of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, out and speaking to this issue, and certainly you can tell by the way that it's being viewed by the public that a tremendous amount of concern, quite a bit of fear, and the Asian American community has been through some very difficult times in the past couple of years. So again, this on top of all of that, I'm sure is very shaking, very unsettling to the whole community.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of Asian Americans who are celebrating Lunar New Year this weekend, not just at Monterey Park, but at events all across Southern California.
Dude, I bet Orange County people are starting to
are very
trip right
torn
now.
by this. They don't know whether to mourn or celebrate the Lunar New Year because of this shooting that happened overnight. We do know there was a few cancellations. The Citadel outlets even canceled their celebration in light of this and in respect for those victims. But it's been the community has been shaken to the core and outraged from what I am seeing online, that there has been, we don't know for sure if this was, the motivation, if it was a hate crime or if it was something more personal or a domestic dispute. That has not been fully confirmed, but regardless, this was a very heavily predominant Asian American community with 65% Asian American, and it really shocks them to the core when something like this happens, especially so close to that Lunar New Year festival, just a street away. But still many questions as to why that suspect decided to shoot in that dance studio as opposed to the Lunar New Year celebration. Thankfully, he didn't. But this is just a tragedy all around,
it's all black
and
screen.
the Asian American community is certainly heartbroken this morning.
Absolutely. A number of motivations have been put forward with this morning as to why this occurred. I don't think we'll really know until the investigation plays itself out in more depth. But from what we've heard and what we see often in these mass shootings, that it is somebody who feels that they've been disrespected for whatever reason, and they in their own way feel that they're going to strike out at anybody potentially responsible, or even anybody who may represent somebody they feel is responsible in any way. And so when you try and look at these things, it's hard to be able to rationalize what happened because it's not a rational decision, obviously. And so this individual's background and all of the things that led up to this will be looked at in great detail as the investigation continues.
What is that process like, looking into the background of a suspect?
Yeah, well, I mean, and I don't know what the story is on this particular individual, but oftentimes, you look at somebody's social media history,
that's way too
their
loud.
presence online, what they've been involved in, what they're interested in, queries that they've made, web searches, but also communications with others, and have they expressed themselves in a way that it was threatening? What could have been learned? What should have been learned? Who else knew what was going on in this regard? And so certainly, and I can't speak to this case,
I
but
forgot.
one of the things you often look for
kittens.
was this person tied in with other
kittens.
people? Is this something larger than what we're seeing here in this individual case? And so all of those things will be looked at, and any leads exhausted in that way. And like you mentioned earlier, we have some of the best and brightest working on this case with tremendous amount of experience and an ability to work with our federal, state, and local partners in a way that I think could be a model for the rest of the country.
Yeah, on that note, not only as a former sheriff do you have that perspective to what occurs in Monterey Park, prior to that, you were the police chief in Long Beach, much like Robert Luna. And so you worked, I got to assume, in collaboration with Torrance PD, being a neighboring city there. So you're well aware of what they are capable of when it comes to these investigations.
Yeah, very true. In the County of Los Angeles, we have the Los Angeles County Police Chiefs Association, which brings together chiefs on a monthly basis to discuss trends, patterns, different things that you're seeing, but also the ability to be able to share resources and to be able to network. And when you need something, to have that type of relationship where one phone call will get you the resources you need to supplement your own. You can't deploy enough people for something that is a very big incident in any individual city. So it's so critical that we have the partnerships that we have throughout the law enforcement community. And I've been told by people from around the country and around the world that Southern California really leads the way in that collaborative approach to dealing with major crises.
She took it all.
Fortunately or unfortunately, have a lot of practice in doing that with all of the various types of natural disasters and other major events that we have here in the region. So we have some of the best and brightest, and they get to practice their trade on a very frequent basis. So
That's how young they are.
We're thankful to have this type of expertise here locally.
And I was reminded that prior to your time as LA County Sheriff and then the Long Beach Police Department, you also served with the LAPD. You've been all over, tons of experience. The Los Angeles Police Department, more than 9,000 sworn officers currently. Monterey Park has 75 sworn officers, certainly a smaller city of the 88 that you referenced in the county. That being said, what kind of toll does this put on a small police department? Clearly, we have the assistance from the Sheriff's Department this morning on the investigation, but there's still got to be a big weight on this department.
Absolutely. This department, it is a relatively small area that is being policed by a police department of 75. But any given time, there's a small fraction of that number out and available on the streets to respond for calls for service. So when this event happened last night, local resources were clearly overwhelmed and needed the support from surrounding agencies, the Sheriff's Department, and others, our state and our state and federal partners as well. And everybody, no questions asked, when something like this happens, they respond. They get in, they get up, get in the car, and head to work, and not knowing how long they're going to be there before they come home. They're going to be there until the resolution of the case, in an effort to be able to protect the community. In a case like this, as I mentioned earlier, it is so egregious, and you have somebody who has taken so many lives and hurt so many others, and has the ability to continue on that type of behavior. That person has to be identified very quickly and taken into custody to protect the community. And that's what everybody is focused on and very much committed to.
Absolutely. I wonder if you can speak to this. The Monterey Park Police Chief, Scott Weiss, I believe his name is, he spoke earlier during the 8:30 news conference, and he said on the record that this is not connected to the Lunar New Year festival that was ongoing in Monterey Park earlier in the evening. That event was scheduled to wrap up at 9 p.m. Granted, this occurred within an hour after the event, less than a block away. What do you think? Can you say it's not connected definitively, or is that kind of still on the table? You have to assume that there were people who maybe spilled from one event to the next event, and the proximity of the two is just so incredibly close.
Yeah, I mean, at first blush, you would assume that there would be a connection between the crime and the event, bringing so many people together in a relatively small piece of real estate. But Chief Weiss must have information that would indicate to him, to that level of certainty, that this was separate and apart from that, in order for him to have said that this morning. So there's a lot that they don't feel comfortable, I'm sure, going out with at this early stage in the investigation, but that they will speak to in greater detail later.
Okay, we appreciate your insight on this, Jim. We do want to have you on standby real quick, but we want to throw to our reporter who is on the scene right now, Eyewitness News reporter Sophie Flay, live at that scene in Torrance. Sophie, what can you tell us?
Irene, we just got here, but as you guys know, this standoff has been going on for over an hour. You can see behind me those two Bearcats sandwiching the white cargo van. You can't see the cargo van from this angle, but we do know, police have confirmed that the suspect is inside the cargo van. And LA County Sheriff Robert Luna just, about a half hour ago released photos of that suspect. And you can see over here, this has brought out a huge crowd. Sepulveda Boulevard and Hawthorne Boulevard, which is where we are right now, is completely shut off. They are just waiting for this suspect to either come out. We don't know what is going to happen, but this has been going on for over an hour. The SWAT team is here. Monterey police, sheriffs, so many government agencies coming out here to try to get to the bottom of this and get a hold of this suspect. We will continue to update you guys as we learn more. Reporting live in Torrance, Sophie Flay, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
And Sophie, as you were arriving on the scene, for what it's worth, for the community impact here, there are street closures. There is a broad perimeter that has kind of been expanding over the last hour or so. Walk us through that. Was it difficult for you to get in? Is it causing, some disruption there on the streets as you're arriving?
Mark, absolutely. It was almost impossible for us to get here. So many of these streets are blocked off. There is yellow tape everywhere. There's, shopping centers around here where people are coming to park and watch this all unfold. So yes, it is very hard to navigate the streets here in Torrance.
Yeah, can you talk about the atmosphere out there when it comes to the community reaction? I know all morning we've been hearing about shock and confusion, but that was in Monterey Park. Now this is a whole different scene in Torrance. What you said, people are parking and watching. Describe the atmosphere and the reaction that you're seeing this morning.
People are absolutely shocked and devastated from the events that occurred overnight. You can see here people are parked. They're standing here. Oh, we are being asked to move right now. So, yep, we're gonna move right now, you guys. Okay. So we're gonna send it back to you.
Oh, did she show them?
Standing here.
You didn't show them?
Here.
I wanted to see if
situation
I knew any
perhaps a
of
little
them.
too close to the in the different shopping centers, taking
photos, see if any streamers are out there
kind of watching what's going on. Law enforcement has to make sure anybody within sight of the incident needs to make sure they're back.
I don't want to waste my time.
Should there be gunfire, should that actually get to that state, it is a understandably very dangerous situation.
Absolutely, and we have been monitoring the response both here in Torrance and, as we were mentioning, in Monterey Park this morning. We had reporters out there talking to folks who are just trying to start their morning and waking up to this horrific news, just very confused as to what was happening, especially with that festival going on overnight, and they were expecting it to be another joyous day, but here we are facing another shooting in Monterey Park, and they were very devastated by the news. So it's something that we're seeing throughout Southern California, the reaction pouring in, not only in our region, but also across the world, hearing about this shooting, especially on a very, very prominent holiday for the Asian American community.
Still joining us live this morning for our continuing coverage as we stream here through our ABC 7 Los Angeles app is our law enforcement expert. I'm now being told Sheriff Jim McDonald, former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonald, still on the phone with us. Thank you for sticking with us on this developing situation as we move in there with that image from Air 7 HD. Not a lot of movement. Those SWAT members, former sheriff, are stationary, looking like they're waiting for guidance, waiting for the call to move in. We saw the drone minutes ago. Is this a situation where they're analyzing that video? Can that video be viewed in real time? Do they already know what they've seen?
Yeah, they can do it in real time. Torrance has, as I mentioned earlier, tremendous capabilities in that regard. So they were able to view it in real time and maybe going into greater detail, potentially looking to enhance the video they're looking at to get greater detail. Hard to know exactly what the weight is right now without more information, but clearly they have the situation in hand. The vehicle, under any circumstances, is not going anywhere. The posture they're taking appears that if there is someone in the van, that they are in some way incapacitated and not the threat that they might have been previously. So I can't speak in greater detail to any condition or anything within there, but they're going to exhaust all precautions in trying to be able to ensure that when they do approach and open that van, that everything has been weighed and it's the right time to do it. So you can see there in the back you have a lieutenant, a captain, and an operator discussing what is in front of them and what next steps are going to be on your feed. And so very familiar with the two gentlemen in the front there, not so much the operator, but they are among the best in the business, so confident that all the right things are being done at this time to be able to make sure everything is as safe as it can be.
I'm sure they're being very thorough, but yeah, a big question for many people who are watching this coverage. What will something happen in the next few minutes, or will it take a few hours? We don't know at this point in time. And that's the same sort of mentality we also had for the investigation earlier in Monterey Park. We had that entire street shut down, and the big question was, will this be investigated for several hours, or will this last for several days? And Bruce Thomas, our other law enforcement expert, was mentioning to us that it could take days until that investigation is clear in Monterey Park. The Alhambra location, in the meantime, has been cleared.
And former Sheriff Jim McDonnell, you spoke as well about what's happening behind the scenes this morning. We have, a good perspective between Monterey Park, that investigation, and then now what's happening here in Torrance on the investigation on the ground, which is certainly developing. But that behind the scenes effort, what's happening, in offices, using the computer networks and social media, that has to be incredibly large, maybe if not larger, to learn more about this suspect. Is it a race against the clock?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of people that you don't see. There's a number of people out at the scene, obviously, at both scenes or all three scenes.
All right, former Sheriff Jim McDonnell, I'm going to put you on pause. We have a news conference that's about to begin. We are going to join our viewers on air as well.
This is Eyewitness News with live breaking news.
Good afternoon. We are interrupting our 2023 Australian Open Tennis Week 1 highlights. You can continue watching it on our digital channel 7.2. Check your local listings on how to access that. But right now, we go to this breaking news.
Law enforcement is giving an update on this deadly mass shooting in Monterey Park. Let's listen in.
Let us hear regarding the mass shooting that occurred last night. Sheriff Luna?
God, that was perfect timing, actually.
Thank you, Captain. As most of you were here earlier today, it's very important for our community to be updated on something as significant and tragic as this. So we're back up here, making ourselves available to you for any questions. I think you're aware that at 11:18 this morning, we released a bulletin with a picture or an image of what we believe to be the suspect. We haven't named him. And there's a reason for that. We have a lot of resources in the Sheriff's Department, working with other agencies to make sure, again, that our priority, beyond taking care of the victims and survivors of this horrible incident, that we get this man off the streets. So I think that all of you have received this. I want to address also that there is a tactical incident that's occurring in the city of Torrance that is being covered. People have asked, is that your suspect? We don't know. As I said earlier today, we had a vehicle that was described as a white box van, I guess you'd say, a van of interest, and there's a van that looks just like what was described to us in the city of Torrance. It's a barricaded suspect situation. We are working with one of our partner agencies, the Torrance Police Department, to resolve that. We believe there is a person inside of that vehicle. We don't know their condition, but we're going to handle that in the safest manner that we possibly can to try and identify that person. Could it be our suspect? Possibly. But at this point, if we're doing our jobs correctly, we're not only looking at that situation or scenario, but we're making sure that we're looking at any and every possibility. So I do encourage our community, if they have any leads, maybe they saw the picture of this individual, to come forward with any information that they believe may help us in this very critical and important investigation. That's going to be very important. I also want to talk about the victim survivor side of this. In response to our mass shooting this morning, a victim resource center has been set up at the Langley Senior Citizens Center located at 400 West Emerson Avenue. And I want to make sure that the appropriate victims, families, friends take advantage of that resource. There are many people behind me. Some of them will speak, representatives from different agencies, and there's so many parts to this, right? The response, the medical side of it. But as we're looking for this suspect, we will not forget the victims and survivors. And it's important because you can just imagine the trauma that they've experienced, and it's our responsibility to wrap our arms around them. So representatives from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the District Attorney's Office, and the District Attorney, George Gascon, is standing here with us. The Red Cross, the Department of Health Victim Services are at the center to assist the victims, survivors, and their families. If anyone believes their relative may be a victim, please contact representatives at this Victims Resource Center that I'm talking about. And again, if you think that you have questions, you're upset, you haven't been able to locate a family member that you think's involved, please go out to this Victim Center and we will assist you. That's why we're there. At the center, we also have members from the Psychological Services Bureau, from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And as we go hour by hour, if we see any other needs, there are multiple agencies that have contacted us. Everybody wants to help, which is amazing in this time, because we need to depend on each other in difficult circumstances like this. So with that, I am going to turn it over to the next speaker, and I'll be here for questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Luna, and I also want to congratulate and actually give credit to the first responders, as well as our sheriff team and the city of Monterey Park, the chief of police, the many deputies, and as well as the DA's office, Mr. Gascon, and also to our elected officials that are here with us this morning representing the city of Monterey Park. I am, as you know, very heartbroken to hear of the news of what occurred with the individuals that lost their lives. But I think now we have to look at the victims, the survivors, and as the sheriff said, this is what the county does best. Help provide assistance, mental health services, any kind of relief that is possibly and legally conceivable for us to provide. We are here to support all of the families in this community and help them in their healing. It's tragic what happened, but let's also think about the people who put their lives out there on stake every single day as well to protect us, our safety, well-being, and also our physicians, the ones that I can tell you about at LAC-USC that are right now treating at least 4 of the other victims there. I also want to say that they have also devoted their service to help providing protections for all of our residents in our community. The county's Office of Emergency Management has also been providing support and leveraging mental health resources at this very traumatic time, along with the city of Monterey Park, which, as you know and you can see, are very united and very resilient. Again, a heartfelt note to the families who lost their loved ones and to those that are recovering at this time. And with the help of the public, we can help to identify the individual that was behind this incident. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, this was supposed to be a moment, a time of celebration. We're celebrating Lunar New Year's, which is such an important component of many communities around LA. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to express my condolences not only to the victims' family, but the entire AIPI community. My office has multiple roles in this case. Number one, by state law, we ran a mass casualty response unit. And since very early this morning, we began to mobilize countywide resources in my office as well in order to provide services to the victim's family and to the community. And this is work that will not only, it began today, but quite frankly, will go on for months and possibly years. You know, the impact of trauma from this event goes on for a very long time. I want to thank the Sheriff Department, Sheriff Luna, and the Monterey Park Police Department for the incredible work they have done. We've had also our own law enforcement component has been here since very early on, working first with the Monterey Police Department, and we will continue to do that with the sheriff and other partners. Clearly, depending on whether an individual is arrested, we will talk about prosecution at a later date, and that is appropriate. I also want to thank the U.S. Justice Department, our U.S. Attorney, who is here today with us. Again, this is a joint effort, and depending on what the conditions are, the Bureau of Investigation is also part of this work. But what I want to make sure that we get across to our entire community is that we are a united community. When one of us is attacked, we're all here together. And regardless of what the motive was for this horrendous impact, for this horrendous event, we will continue to work together. We're here with Monterey Park, with the San Gabriel Valley, with our entire community. And we're not only here today, we will be here every day until the work is done. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out right now, and I want to speak to the Monterey Park community directly. Our police department, our city continues to provide protective services throughout this incident. We work with our partners both on a county, a state, and a federal level and try to resolve the situation as best we can and take our suspect into custody. The sheriff talked about the Langley Center. That's where our victim assistance has been set up. I asked that the partners in the press give those victims' families a little bit of space over there so that they can get information. You can imagine when they woke up this morning after the Lunar New Year festivals from yesterday, and they may not have found their loved one next to them in the bed or at home, and how that's affecting everybody in this community right now. I want to ensure everybody that as we get more information, we'll put it out as much as we can, and the Monterey Park Police Department is here as your partner in the community to keep it safe. Any information that people may have related to the incident, they can call the police station. We will try to get information out as soon as we get it. I have a lot of uniformed police officers that are out on the street Every single one of them is committed to the community, and if someone in the community has a question, has a concern, is scared, that officer's out there to make sure that they're okay, and all they have to do is reach out and ask the question. I'm going to open it up to any questions. Thank you.
Sheriff, could I ask you talk about, and again, we know that you're limited in what you can say for a number of reasons. You talked about the situation in Torrance right now, and you said that you don't, is the suspect in? You asked yourself rhetorically, and you said it's possible. Is it also possible that a person who's in there, whether it's the suspect or not, is no longer alive? Is that a possibility?
Yes, it is a possibility.
Are you aware of anyone who's heard any gunshots that would make people think that was a possibility?
I don't have that information here in front of me, but that's also possible.
Stupid
yes.
Shut up.
Next. You have a name because you released a picture, or are you withholding the name, and why is it?
We are withholding the name at this time, and as I stated earlier, it is a priority to apprehend this person. And we have a lot of resources throughout this entire region, and we believe if we're putting his name out, that will inhibit our ability to potentially arrest the suspect if he's out there, or maybe flee. So please be patient with us. You've been patient thus far, and this is why we're going to keep our word that we're going to continuously update you, because the community, I understand, they're thirsty for information. And yes, we did put his picture out, and that's because from a public safety perspective, we want people to see who this is and then give us any information that they may have about his whereabouts so that we can safely take him into custody.
Sure. Registered to the individual can you have? It is very priority, but do we know if this individual was working by himself and the motive of this situation?
No, we don't. And we have to keep all those options open. Was he by himself? Were there other suspects? Our detectives are looking at every angle. And that's the important thing that good investigators do, right? To keep every option on the table until we know for sure what the motive was, who else was involved, and other than getting this suspect into custody, and providing the best case to either the district attorney or the U.S. Attorney's Office, our job is to collect every shred of this awful puzzle that has been laid out by this suspect. So, work in progress.
It's one of those options. Do you believe that this is a domestic violence situation and that's what
We've been asked that, and we're looking at every angle. Whether it's domestic violence, the question was asked earlier about a hate crime. You have to leave the door open for any possibility until we understand who this suspect is, what his motives are, where he came from, what his intention was. At the end of the day, as a sheriff's department investigative unit, we are responsible for providing all the facts and evidence to our partners in the prosecutor's office so we can prosecute this individual to the full extent of the law.
Is part of the puzzle the search of the individual whose name you have?
I don't have that information right now in front of me. We should be able to follow up with you on that as this incident goes on.
Sheriff, would you be able to confirm at this point that the suspect in the second location was in fact the same one who perpetrated this mass shooting here in Monterey Park?
We believe it is. I'm not confirming it 100% because, again, we still have to put this whole thing together. But the picture or the image that we're showing you is from the second location, and we believe that they are both connected. But again, we leave every option on the table. We have to leave it open because we don't want to focus on one area while someone else is getting away. So you got to be open to all of it.
How he was apprehended, I mean, for a while by the patrons at Lai Dance Hall. What kind of weapon was recovered from him? How did he get away?
Earlier today, in regards to the weapon, I could tell you that it's not a high-powered assault rifle. but I don't want to get into the specifics on the weapon. In time, we will. Everyone will get exactly what that is, but I don't want to say anything that will impact or create more challenges for us in trying to apprehend this person. I think.
More questions. Two more questions. Do you think only one weapon was involved in the deadly incident?
We don't know that yet. And for us, just like I'm saying that there may be one suspect, we think there's one, there may be more. We also have to assume there may be more than one weapon, right? We may have recovered one. When we find him, that doesn't mean he's not armed and dangerous.
Sheriff, finally, can you explain to us then, since the last briefing, what is new other than the photo?
Well,
I mean, the update, and you got everyone here. I'm just trying to ascertain if there's anything new other than the photo.
We have the photo that's new. There's the incident that's occurring in Torrance, where obviously there's a lot of questions and concerns about that. That's the update that we have.
Nothing from that. You're not able to tell us anything from that. So I'm just asking if there's anything definitive that you can tell us.
I'm giving you definitive information now. And I'm giving you the information that we have. And I had a choice to sit back and not come out here and be available, or come out here like we talked about earlier, and every time we get even a shred of an update to give you what we have, because there's significant public interest in this, as there should be. So if we call you out here in 2 hours, I'm hoping there's more information to provide.
But if there's not, fuck you.
Because I want this solved as much as anybody out there does. We want to, this has been painful. Let me go over here.
I'd be a great sheriff.
I don't have that information in front of me. Yeah, typically I don't put out the specific locations just out of respect for the business. I'm sure as the day goes on, we'll be putting down those specific names of the businesses, because as you can imagine, if you're the business owner there and you have this horrible incident, they're traumatized as well.
My mouth was really bad.
One more question. One more.
He said exactly the same.
You know, it is normal that when we have victims of violent crime, we don't talk about specific hospitals. And I'm going to share just a quick story as to why we don't. Earlier, it may have been mentioned that they were at a specific hospital, and somebody called one of those hospitals to say something along the lines that they want to go and finish the job. That is absolutely horrible. So again, I don't believe that's the information. Please, these victims and survivors are dealing with so much. Let's not traumatize them more. So yeah, and be patient with us, and our Sheriff's Information Bureau will put out another time where we're coming out, and I hope to have even better information. But as of right now, that's what we have. And again, thoughts and prayers to all the families involved in this. It's a horrible incident for our county. So thank you very much.
Yes, over there. In Spanish.
All right, you are listening live there. That was the latest news conference from
No
Monterey
español,
Park
go away.
with Sheriff
Sucker.
Robert Luna, other speakers, including
just because he's Mexican, he's got to do the whole thing in Spanish for you now?
George Gascon, all speaking at the mic as we are gathering the very
latest
information on this deadly mass shooting that occurred late last night in the city of Monterey Park. Still, those numbers remain the same. You see on your screen, 10 killed and 10 injured in the mass shooting.
He's got a job too,
and while that news conference was ongoing, on the right side of your screen, you still see it there, and now we have a ground image on the left side of the screen. Those images are both from the city of Torrance. So there's a lot at play here.
Piss those people
What's
off,
happening
actually,
at this location is you
probably.
see the
They're gonna
ground
be,
shot and the aerial shot is a vehicle that they believe could be the suspect from this mass shooting. Sheriff Luna, using very delicate wording, could be the suspect.
He's voted
they believe
in,
it's
man.
possible that it's him.
He
So
just
there's a
got
lot at
voted in,
play
too.
to confirm that, but certainly they are taking it
Bro, you
seriously
should
that
have
this
answered
vehicle
the
matches the
Spanish
description.
questions, homie.
They have released the
You're
image
starting to
of the
fuck up
suspect.
already.
They have not released his name. The sheriff did
He's starting to
confirm
fuck up
that
already,
they have
dude.
a name, but they did not want to put
He's
it
gotten
out
almost like a month
right
ago.
now. We, of course, have the crew on the scene. That includes reporter Sophie Flay. Sophie has confirmed that we have the LA County Bomb Squad and Hazmat on scene as well as they investigate this vehicle before they move in any closer. And while that news conference was going on, we saw the LA County Sheriff Bearcat, that SWAT vehicle right there to the right of your screen on the bottom right,
And he was
move
Long Beach's
alongside that white
chief
van to get a closer
before
look.
that.
It was right against the vehicle.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were watching that as that
So
press
he ran for
conference was
sheriff.
going on.
I
We
didn't know who
also
he
want to
was.
go back out to our ground reporter, eyewitness news reporter Sophie Flay with the latest. We just heard that press conference. And Sophie, what are you seeing out there from your vantage point this morning?
Okay, we'll put Sophie on standby. We're not hearing Sophie's mic.
Oh, there
Okay,
it is.
Sophie, go ahead. We hear you now. You're good now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Mark, Irene, we are here in Torrance on Sepulveda Boulevard and Hawthorne Boulevard. Right behind me, as you can see, we can zoom in here, you can see that white cargo van sandwiched between two Bearcats, and like you said, another one kind of just moved in there. And we have just confirmed now that the bomb squad and hazmat team have moved in, and in that press conference, we learned that they're not sure if there are hazardous materials inside that cargo van, so they are taking all precautions, and everyone's here. I mean, Torrance Police, the SWAT team, LA County Sheriff, everyone coming together to handle the situation carefully and diligently, like they've mentioned. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna released photos, like you said, of the suspect not that long ago, and they are now just waiting here. As we mentioned before, it was impossible to get over here. So many streets blocked off, and so many community members have come out to kind of watch this scene unfold.
That Bearcat move through the area, it's on the move once again, and it has just been trying to survey that van, as you mentioned. We also saw the drone that was taking a look inside the windshield and around the vehicle. As you mentioned, Sophie, that they're erring on the side of caution because we don't know if there are any explosives inside or around that vehicle. So, Sophie, we appreciate your report this morning and giving us a good perspective of things on the ground there. And we do see this Bearcat being very active, getting very close to the driver's side of the van. We saw earlier that the window there was smashed, so it might have given them a clearer view of what's in the back of that van.
Yeah, that's a very interesting position that it's taken. In the moments prior to this, it was moving alongside of that van, but now kind of pointed right towards it. We have a reporter in Monterey Park, Leticia Juarez, on standby, but if we can hold, I think this image is worth staying on. Let's see, do we still have former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonald? Is he still with us? He is the director of USC Safe Communities Institute. He's been providing really important insight and perspective as to what we're seeing on the ground this morning here in Torrance for this part of the investigation. Jim, are you there?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. Oh, are we here?
Yep. Yeah, I'm still on.
Okay, now this image that we're seeing, this Bearcat with the LA County Sheriff's Department, it's taken a different position, kind of pointing directly towards the driver's side window of that white van. You know how this process works. Tell us about what we're seeing, what could happen next. What does this all mean?
Yeah, they're using the Bearcat because they're in a position of advantage structurally that is as strong a foundation as they could put themselves in a safe position that should something happen, should somebody open fire on the vehicle, they're relatively safe in that position. So as they move forward now, they're looking to see everything they can see. It's a panel van, so you don't have the ability to look in the rear windows or any side windows. So they're trying to get as much information as they can by basically hitting this thing from every angle they can, to include the drones. And so as they go forward, if they can, they'll also be in a position with hazmat and the bomb squad out there to be able to try and obtain readings. Should there be any hazardous materials there, to be able to, in the parts per million, figure out, do we have an elevated level of any substance? And that's very helpful then in deciding next steps. So there's a lot of science goes on now that a few years ago was not possible, but they have all of that, at their disposal. So our hopes is that this is a safe position for them to be in, and that they can, as quickly as appropriate, be able to bring some resolution to this and some closure to the people who are at this particular scene, at least.
And we'll stop you right there. You may be on a slight delay. SWAT officers have moved in to the vehicle. They are at the door preparing to make entry. They have broken the
Why does he have to start
window.
yelling?
The window is now open.
Telling us
they
play-by-play what's happening.
Potentially opening the door. There is about
like he had to stop
more than
him so he could start doing that.
Armed officers right at the door. Perhaps the side door will be the next to open. We now have the passenger side door open. Guns are drawn as they are moving in on this vehicle. You got to assume they believe this individual is incapacitated. The fact that they are going inside first. He's reaching over, the lead officer, to the driver's side. He has moved the seat, and potentially this sliding door here on the side is going to open next.
Yes, they have their guns drawn. As you mentioned, the Bearcat on the other side of the vehicle, making sure that they are safe from that angle as well. But we're waiting to see what the officers will do next. They've just broken the passenger window, opened that side of the van, about to open the side door. They are all in position. One officer has just gotten into the passenger seat and taking a look back there. It doesn't seem like they are on high alert.
I mean, the fact that he just went all the way inside the vehicle.
The body posture there, it seems like they are not seeing too much of a threat at this point in time, but they are, of course, still on guard. One of the officers still peering back there.
It's not a sliding door. The doors are opening.
There's nobody there. He parked over a manhole or something. That'd be crazy.
It looks like they're still looking even further back behind that door opening.
They're pulling something out. Looks like a blanket of some sort.
He was taking a nap.
And former Sheriff Jim McDonald still on the phone with us. We thank you for sticking with us here. I mean, we're watching as everyone is at these images. This was a barricade situation for well over 2 hours here in Torrance, the intersection of Hawthorne and Sepulveda, near the Del Amo Fashion Center, now playing out live here on ABC 7 Eyewitness News, on air and online, abc7.com.
And the situation has been unfolding here in Torrance since roughly a little past 11 o'clock. So it's been almost a couple hours since we first saw this van swarmed by Bearcats and officers moving in. So they have been monitoring for the past couple hours to make sure that there were no threats to any officers. They had a drone circling this van for a while, checking for explosives possibly in and around the vehicle, for any movement inside the vehicle. We are still waiting to see and hear what is inside, if it was the suspect they have been looking for, if it is that suspect with another person possibly. We don't know at this point in time, but it looks like that Bearcat is moving away from the vehicle on the driver's side of the van.
Gosh, even with the posture, which was somewhat calm given all the circumstances, it was really tense to watch that, not knowing what these SWAT individuals would find upon opening the vehicle. You even have one gentleman walking away there.
Was it tense?
So we don't have the best vantage point to see all the way inside, including all the way in the back portion of that van, but it's still unclear if an individual was in fact located in that vehicle.
Yeah, no shit. Why
They
is
are
it still
continuing
unclear? Have they not
to
heard the
comb through
radio
that vehicle.
dispatch yet?
I was just so impressed by that initial SWAT
Fuck,
officer
how are they so out of the loop? Joe's more in the
through
loop
the
when
front
he's
passenger side
following
to
them
get
around
that
and
door
shit.
open. Clearly, they had some good information from the SWAT Bearcats that were there, had it pinned, and then from the drone that was looking in through the front dash. But still, it's a tense moment nonetheless. You just never know.
Yeah, you can never fully assume that vehicle is completely safe. But we did watch that officer break the front window, the passenger front window, and reach in, unlock the vehicle.
I feel like they don't want us to know yet.
It's very difficult to see from our vantage point what's inside the van, and we may not know for a bit of time what exactly they find, because they do control, law enforcement does control the information that is released to the public as they continue their investigation. So we are just watching all of this unfold live. Many people still reeling and outraged and emotional over the shooting that happened last night.
Absolutely. Jim McDonnell joining us again. Again, he's been on the phone with us, director of USC Safe Communities Institute. You've seen the images now. I believe you were on a delay, but I'm sure you've seen the images now from Air 7 of the SWAT numbers going in. What do you make of what you saw?
You can make it go up.
Yeah, it appears from what we know that they approached, they made sure that, that what they had initially thought was confirmed. One of the operators then, as you mentioned, took the initiative to go in and be able to open the rear panel doors so that others could go in. There was one of the operators there with a backpack indicating that he was likely the tactical paramedic on scene. And so if there was a need to render aid, medical aid, there was an ability to do that immediately.
Man, the chopper pilot should know something by now. They've had it off of him for long enough for him to zoom all up in this inside the van, dude.
As to whether that individual,
dude, they're delayed. Come on, what's going on?
We don't know anything for sure at this point. But to pronounce somebody deceased as well, that was what the circumstances dictated.
Sure. I got to assume, jump into conclusions from what we've seen here, that there are two options. Either the van's empty, or if there was or is an individual in there, that person is deceased.
There's no way it's
can't
empty,
see
dude.
A person deceased from our vantage point. There's a portion of the van with no windows inside the doors to the left that they were searching. It's unclear if there is a possible person suspect in that portion of the van. But the law enforcement officers, those SWAT members, they have, in most part, stepped away. There still are some to the driver's side door side, but those team members have stepped back from the van. They've gone through the initial search of the vehicle.
They're acting like nothing's in there,
there certainly
though.
was not a live suspect in the vehicle.
If
there was someone in that vehicle, that suspect is passed away. The other option is that they did not find anyone. That would be a major concern.
And again, we are still waiting to hear from law enforcement on an update on this. We in our last press conference we heard from them roughly about 45 minutes ago. We didn't have many updates on this situation.
I feel like Joe would have had this
but they did say that the suspect that they had been looking for was possibly in this white cargo van because it matched the description of what they had been looking for throughout the entire morning.
Run this scenario by the possibility that the suspect was following the news updates and the alerts that law enforcement had put out that they were looking for a white cargo van, and it was ditched here. That certainly is a possibility, and that this is where the vehicle was found. That it matched the description, the possibility that they had the license plate and connect the dots on that. But after 2+ hours, maybe 3 hours here on scene at this location, they maybe have not found anything inside in terms of a suspect. Jim McDonnell, that obviously is speculation, but everything has to be on the table. We can only see what we see.
And Jim, is that possibly why they are withholding some information?
Okay, new information. Hold on.
I keep asking them questions.
Jim, there actually is a body. There is a body in the driver's seat of the van.
Jim, there actually is a body.
We did not have a good perspective on that earlier, and now we can see it. Of course, we're not going to zoom in, but I had eyes on it a moment ago. And there is a man
look at all those birds.
who was in the driver's side slumped over of this van.
Out of nowhere.
Wow, what a development.
Holy
okay,
shit,
speak
it's
to
a
that.
horde of them.
Yeah,
really
that makes sense, because if this was an abandoned van, they would have cleared it earlier, taken every precaution. But if there was no one in there, then the posture would have been different, and they would have continued doing the normal procedure for the investigation, the impound, and so forth. That didn't happen, and the reason for the delay was, as you now know, a suspect in the van and apparently deceased at the scene. And so when the press conference was held and Sheriff Luna mentioned that we don't want to jump to any conclusions, you have the van. It could be the right van and not the right suspect at the time. So there's a number of different options that you can't press a redo button if you don't get it right. So they want to slow things down. They want to take every precaution. But they also realize that when they have, in this case, the scene here again in Torrance, as well as Monterey Park and Alhambra, they have to exhaust all investigative methods to be able to capture what they can, because once you open it up, you no longer have the ability to go back and to be able to then complete the investigation. The scene has been compromised. And so they will take their time in moving through this investigation and follow-up. And again, as we saw here with this white van, it was fairly clear, although you can't say that, it is speculation prior to now, that there was an individual in the van and that they were incapacitated. And that really dictated then what we were seeing on the scene, that you had, the SWAT officers there, but not in a high state of readiness. It was very clear to them, probably from the beginning, that this individual had passed and was no longer a threat, and that dictated the rest that we saw here alive.
Yeah, they probably spotted him ahead of time and were taking their time to assess if there were any other threats possibly with this vehicle, maybe bomb explosives or anyone else inside the vehicle. That's why they were out there since about 11 o'clock this morning. But wow, what a development in this investigation. Not even a day after that crime happened overnight in Monterey Park.
Yeah, just 12 hours after the shooting that occurred at 10:20 last night, in which 10 individuals were killed, another 10 more that were wounded. And Jim McDonnell, when you have a situation like this, you lose the investigative possibility to try this individual, to gather more from them, to interview them. There are so many questions. It appears that in most situations, you'd want to keep that suspect alive to figure out what were they thinking, what was the motive, why, and was there anybody else involved?
No, absolutely. I mean, the sanctity of life drives what we do, and certainly if there was any indication that this individual was alive from the beginning, that they would have taken more urgent, assertive steps to be able to get them medical aid. It was obviously from their behavior clear that wasn't the case. But again, as going back to the press conference with Sheriff Luna, the number of moving parts in something like this, and he referred to the human side, the number of victims, all of the impact on all of their families, the number of people injured and scarred maybe for the rest of their life. Their life has been changed, as well as all of their families. And then the community, the perception of safety in their small community for something like this to happen. And now become a focal point for the world media. Again, very sad, very tragic for everybody involved, but certainly the people many people will live with a lot of pain for the rest of their life as a result of this incident last night.
Yeah, absolutely. Very heartbreaking. This is a dramatic situation for so many communities here. We do want to go out to our Eyewitness News reporter, Leticia Juarez, in Monterey Park at the Reunification Center, where families and friends of the victims there can get answers and ask questions to law enforcement. So, Letty, what can you tell us?
Well, for anyone that's been impacted, whether it be a family member or a victim or a witness who saw what occurred, they can come down here to the Langley Senior Center, which is located on the 400 block of West Emerson. We haven't seen too many people going in, just a couple people trickling in. Like right now, we do see some folks going in. They've been in probably about 3 others before them. Now we're seeing a couple more folks. They're just allowing them to come in here and seek help, whether it be for a mental health crisis, because obviously if they were a part of this or they had a family member that was injured, or maybe they don't know where that family member is, this is where they can come to get information. Now, this crisis center was set up by the mayor of Los Angeles office, Mayor Karen Bass, helping out the mayor here of Monterey Park by establishing this center here. The Department of Mental Health on scene with their advocates, and also with just people in the law enforcement community to help out. Again, we've been seeing a lot of food coming in as people from the community have been bringing them items. The Red Cross is also on scene to help with anything that might be needed by the victims. But again, anyone that may have been involved in this mass shooting, who maybe has a loved one that they cannot find or locate, maybe they're at a hospital, they might be one of the victims, the deceased victims, they can come to this center and try to find some answers. This center will be here throughout the duration. Right now, the mayor of Los Angeles helping out the mayor of Monterey Park as they conduct this mass shooting investigation. They're trying to just gather as much of the witnesses or the family members or the victims that they can to try and see what they can do to help them out right now. Because you can imagine this is just a really heartbreaking event happening to this community here in Monterey Park. I'm going to throw it back to you guys in studio.
Absolutely. Leticia Juarez, we thank you for that update. We are now into our 1 p.m. hour here on Eyewitness News, both on air and online, streaming on our free ABC 7 Los Angeles app. I'm joined now by Eyewitness News anchor Michelle Fisher, joining us here on the desk. She was here last night when all of this was beginning to unfold, so much unclarity on what exactly was happening, and now kind of full circle with learning so much about the victims and now the apparent suspect in this white van. Michelle, just heartbreaking to see the impact, the broad impact of this event.
Yes, last night as all of this information was coming into us, sometimes I don't know that everyone understands immediately, especially the viewers. They want answers and they're wondering, how the process works in terms of getting information. And we certainly shared all we could last night. But yeah, to your point, to see this all unfold today and all the new information we're learning, and then to get that picture of a suspect, no name just yet, but and now for there to be a body discovered here in Torrance, it is kind of come full circle, but still a lot of unanswered questions this afternoon about a motive and who this individual is, his relation to the victims, if any at all, if it is some type of hate crime or if it was targeted. So yes, still a lot of unanswered questions that hopefully we get the answer to sometime soon, but certainly if the individual in this white vehicle here is the person responsible, that at least allows people in this community to kind of be at ease and not have to worry about somebody still being out there with a weapon, possibly who could, shoot and kill other people. So
absolutely. We spoke earlier with one of our law enforcement experts, Bruce Thomas, about the fact that more often than not, law enforcement does exactly what they did today. They find the suspect. They are very good at this, using all of their resources to gather the best information. Once again, that image on the ground of what has been occurring there in Torrance this morning, a secondary location where the suspect has been located, a man inside of that vehicle, dead. Joining us live as well, Rob Hayes at Monterey Park City Hall, where that news conference wrapped up minutes ago. Rob.
Yeah, so many questions still remain. That news conference wrapped up. The sheriff talked to us, and they were talking about the possible...
Bye, guys. Thanks for hanging out. They're just saying the same shit over and over now. Time for me to go, though. Once they start doing that, it's time for me to go. Y'all have a great day. Have a great night. If something else happens, I'll come back on. If it does, come say hi. If not, have a great night. For yourself. Bye, everybody. Thank you.